Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thanks for spending some of your time with us tonight. As a reminder to the listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube, with each show segment available. Head on over, and if you like what you hear, we'd appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys?
It's the beard, it's the drink, and it's the wisdom. Let's get it.
Let's talk some sports, baby.
Oh.
Best part of my day. In episode 60.
What was that? What was that little ending? What was that?
Just go with it, man. Come on.
Thanks. In episode 60, it's Tua versus Burrow. We break down some of the most interesting NBA lineups in the past 20 years, and the fellas are going to get defensive as they lay out their best NFL stoppers from the 2010s. But first, perhaps the most impactful change in the new CBA is set to take effect this year. The NFL playoffs will expand from 12 teams to 14 teams this year, the first change to the playoff format in 30 years. Under the new rules, an additional wildcard weekend game will be played between the 2 seed and the 7 seed. The games will be played in triple headers on both Saturday and Sunday. Only the 1 seed will receive a bye under the new rules. The change is expected to bring in more revenue for the league and for the players, but it might have some negative effects as well. So, Jay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is this new playoff expansion?
I'm giving it a 4. 5 right in the middle is average, slightly below average for me. On one hand, as a fan of the NFL, as a fan of football, it's hard for me to say no to more football. So that's why it's really close for me. But it goes back to the point of urgency in the regular season, and you can look at it one or two ways, because on one hand, you can say, yes, it adds urgency to the regular season at the very top because you're limiting yourself to one first-round bye. So last year, we'd have the Ravens and 49ers as your top seeds, and the Chiefs and Packers, who are your 2 seeds, no longer get a first-round bye. But we got to remember that when we talk about these first-round byes, the Texans were the 4 seed in the AFC last year, and they shut down operations in Week 17 and were resting guys. So we're gonna see more and more action like this, because the Patriots, they probably shut it down because they were out of the running. The Chiefs, it's just gonna be one of them situations where late in the season, I think you're gonna see more teams resting. Whereas if you left it the same and had 2 first-round byes, there would be more jockeying for position late in the season. Now, you'd still have teams resting at some point, but I think it's possible you could see that even more. You may have, I think it leads early on in the season that you need to be on your A game early and often if you want to have a shot at number 1 seed in that first round bye. But I just don't see that as being. I'm looking at late in the season. I think we're going to see more resting of players late in the season. And then on the other end of that, you're going to see more 9-win teams in the playoffs. And it won't be 8-8 no more, but we could see it because of the 17-game schedule. But we could see an 8-9 team slide in at some point in the wild card. And this is one of the problems or issues that we have with the NBA playoff system, because we know when the NBA playoffs get underway, the first round in the 1-8 matchup in the 2-7 is normally a wrap. Like, there's no, we watch, but we know it's a foregone conclusion, especially in a 7-game series, that 1 and that 2 seed are going to have their way more often than not. And will we see more upsets in the NFL? Sure, because it's just a 1-game thing. We can see these type of things happening. But I'm looking at the Chiefs and Steelers from last year. The Devlin Hodges Steelers or the Mason Rudolphs. I can't imagine how bad of a game that would be with Patrick Mahomes against Devlin Hodges or Mason Rudolph. I don't know. Maybe Mike Tomlin plays one for a half and the other one for a half and tries to match it up that way. I don't know. But I don't see that being very compelling. And then I think Packers and Rams, that has some merit to it on the other side of the NFC. But did the Rams really deserve to be in the playoffs last season? I don't think they did. And with that in mind, we already had the Titans last season just slide their way on in. They had a little bar of soap in them last year, a la Kyle Lowry with a 9-7 record. they made it happen once they got in the playoffs, but it just leads to, and you guys said this before, the rewarding of mediocrity. And this is one of the things, I think the NFL has had this right for years with, what, 3/8 or no, a little bit, no, not 3/8, but about 38% of the NFL teams making the playoffs. That sounds about right. Once you get over to 40% and you're approaching 50%, that's too many. I mean, we see it every year in the NBA. More than half the teams make the playoffs, so there's going to be always probably at least one team in the playoffs with a losing record. I don't think that's good for the game. And again, Chiefs, Steelers, Packers, Rams, I don't see those very good matchups. But again, it is more football, so it's hard to say no to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this short, sweet, and to the point. I think Jay hit most of the points. I'm gonna give him a 6, and this is why I'm gonna give him a 6. The way I look at it is this: the thing that I like the most is the fact that one team get a bye. I'm all about that. That I think that will raise some sense of urgency. And yeah, I do think teams will shut it down early if they don't think they get that number 1 seed, because it's really not going to matter. Either you're going to play at home or you're going to play in the road, but you're going to play in that week 1, so their first weekend. So it is what it is. However, I like that you give one goal. Everybody come for that one goal. They play their best ball majority of the season. You can't lose to last year. You can't lose to the Dolphins. You can't be flailing around with the Browns. You got to beat everybody. So that way, when you play the upper echelon teams, those games are going to matter more. Just think when you have those 1 and 2 matchups, those 1 and 3 matchups, and they're fighting to be the number 1 default because of only one team getting the bye. So that's my biggest pro of it. The con, I done said this multiple times. I've said it on past shows. I'm not about award mediocrity. I'm a big believer in you got to fight for what you get. And I just feel like it's going to be too much of this NCAA tournament type of mentality where I can lose early. I catch that hot streak, after the halfway mark, and now I'm in there, baby. We got that whopping 7 seed. Shouts out to your boy. Thank you. And I'm not the biggest fan of it, So we'll see. It's just like anything else in sports. I got to see it one time to really get a good feel for it, to see if I really dislike it as much as I think I do. I said this during the All-Star game when they switched up their format. The sound of it didn't excite me. It didn't excite me at all. However, once I seen the format go down, once I seen how it looked, I left that product thinking that was a good product. NBA did a good job. I can't wait to see what they do next year. So it might be the same thing with the playoffs. I don't know. But from the way it sounds right now, yeah, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm not much of a fan of it. If I had to give it a number, I'd say a 4 or a 3. I think we need to acknowledge the main reason this is happening is money. I mean, there was nothing wrong with the system we had. I mean, it wasn't like every year some 8-8 team was like, oh my God, we should be in the playoffs. Like when the CFP, the college football playoff changed, there was a pretty good argument that, hey, like number 3 and number 4 also had some pretty good arguments. And eventually it pushed the game. The only thing that pushed this was the owners want more money, and they're going to make more money because Wild Card Weekend has went up and up as far as viewership goes. The NFL said, well, hey, we can throw a third team in there. We got time. We'll just run a game at 1 o'clock, at 4 o'clock, and 7 o'clock or whatever. And, so I don't like that it wasn't made. The decision wasn't really made based off of some need the game had. The playoff system we had worked pretty well. But, and I'm just I'm a less teams guy that comes to the playoffs. Like, I watch mediocre to below average most of the year with the junk I watch, the weekly games I watch. So when I turn on the playoffs, man, I want to see the best teams. I don't want to see 8-8. I don't want to 9-7 even. I want to see the best teams play, and we're gonna have more just average teams running around in there, like you said. I mean, we see the Chiefs and Steelers. Okay, that's either a 51-17 rout, or somehow the Steelers mess around and upset them, and then now I've got to watch them another week when we know inevitably they're going to come crashing back to earth, like most of these teams do. These little Cinderellas that get on runs, like. Every Super Bowl participant in the last 7 seasons has been a 1 or a 2 seed and had a first round bye. I just think it's not. there should be more award for being even the second best team. I mean, that's still a lot to fight for. And even going into this past playoffs, there were teams, remember the Seahawks and the 49ers were fighting for that second seed or the 5 seed. You know, there was a lot of debate versus who was going to get that, and that made a big difference. You know, Seattle kind of flamed out where San Francisco got that bye and they got to roll on. So I don't know. To me, it's like, yeah, I mean, there are some upsides. You know, the players are going to get more money too because they get more of the share revenue now, and it's going to bring more revenue to the league. You're going to get more meaningful games late in the year. A lot of these teams that are around 500 are going to have more to play for. So you'll get some more games where the teams haven't just get in and are looking to next year. But yeah, overall, I can't be too excited about it. But hey, you know, more football. So, you know, oh well.
Yeah, I would say this to close out. Really the only change, because your 3-6s and your 4-5 matchups, they stay the same. The only difference is you add a team, and the other team that would have had a bye is got to duke it out in wild card weekend. The 2-7 matchups are not going to be good. They're going to be one team. The 2 seed is going to be highly favored, just as a 2 seed in the NBA playoffs is going to have a high probability of just rolling through that round. It's just what's going to happen. But even so, even if last season the Steelers or the Rams had a snuck on bye to the divisional round, the probability more that they're going to advance again. These teams virtually, they don't have much of a chance, and that's the ultimate goal. It's not just to get in. It's to make a run and win the whole thing. The 7 seeds, they're not going to really have a chance. And oh, by the way, you might have to check me on this. The last time a team didn't have the benefit of a first round bye, Ravens.
Yep.
So even with that, the first round bye has been critical the past many years, and even now that it's less than one bye, I don't think that hurts 2 and 3 and 4 seeds all that much. I think if you win your division, you normally have a good chance. But 7 seeds and even the wild card teams now, they're already behind the 8 ball. 7 seeds, they're not going to have much of a chance, even though you let them on in there.